There is a silent power few ever discover in their lifetime, a power that is not shouted, not displayed for applause, not dressed to impress. It is a power that doesn't need to convince anyone because it exists entirely independent of other people's approval. It is born from mastery over oneself, from calmness in the face of provocation, from the deliberate choice not to react the way others expect you to. In today's world, where everything is urgent, where social media rewards immediate reaction, where noise is mistaken for influence, this power is rarer than ever. And because it is rare, it is infinitely valuable. Most people live chasing validation, begging for attention, or endlessly explaining themselves to those who have no right to demand explanations in the first place. This is the trap the Stoics, from Epictetus to Seneca to Marcus Aurelius, warned about again and again. The trap of living as if your worth depended on the opinion of others. When you fall into it, you place your peace in the hands of strangers, acquaintances, and even those who wish you harm. And nothing is more dangerous to your soul than handing over your emotional center of gravity to another person. The Stoic knows that true strength lies in self-discipline, in the sovereignty of the inner life, and one of the most powerful weapons for keeping that sovereignty is silence. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of weakness, but the silence of power. The silence that says, I do not need to react. I do not need to prove anything. I do not need to convince you. This kind of silence is not empty. It is a declaration of emotional independence, invisible, yet unshakable. In Stoicism, silence is not ignorance. It is the understanding that not everything deserves a response, not every battle needs to be fought, and not every provocation demands a counterattack. Marcus Aurelius put it in his Meditations when he wrote, "It is possible to not have an opinion." It is possible to remain at peace. That choice not to have an opinion is not moral indifference. It is the conscious decision to avoid entanglement with what is beyond your control. In a society that demands constant reaction, choosing silence is an act of rebellion. And in that rebellion lies your advantage. While others exhaust themselves trying to impress, justify, or beg, you keep your energy intact for what truly matters. Your silence becomes a wall against manipulation, against unjust criticism, against the desperate need for approval. But silence rarely stands alone. It comes with 3 deliberate decisions, each deeply Stoic in nature. Never chase, never beg, never explain. 3 pillars that look simple on paper, but require a fierce discipline to live by. And here is the truth. They are not tricks to manipulate people. They are not strategies to win in relationships or gain an upper hand. They are principles for freeing yourself from emotional dependency, because he who does not chase is not afraid to lose. He who does not beg refuses to kneel to what he cannot control. And he who does not explain knows his value, is not determined by someone else's acceptance of his narrative. This philosophy is not comfortable. It runs against the human instinct to seek connection, validation, and understanding. Stoicism does not deny these needs, but it puts them in order. It reminds you that connection must be chosen, not begged for. That is the only validation that matters, is living in accordance with virtue, and that the most valuable understanding is the one you give yourself. This is not about building a cold wall between you and the world. Stoicism is not an ice fortress. It is an inner citadel, a stronghold inside you that allows you to live among others without becoming a prisoner to their judgments. It allows you to listen without being dragged into impulsive reactions, to speak only when your words add value, and to remain silent when your silence speaks louder than any argument. So in this journey, we will walk backward, starting from the last idea and moving to the first. We begin with never explain, the most subtle but perhaps the most powerful, then move to never beg, the act of freeing yourself from dependency. And finally end with never chase, the purest expression of self-restraint. But before we begin, stop for a moment and ask yourself, how many times in your life have you felt the need to convince someone of your worth? How many times have you spoken too much to justify your choices? How many times have you lowered yourself to keep someone close? How many times have you run after something or someone who was walking away? If you have, you are not weak. You are human. But if from this moment on you choose to let your silence become your superpower, you will have taken a step most never dare to take, because true silence is not the absence of voice. It is the presence of control. And that is the essence of Stoic strength. Never explain. Never explain. To live without the compulsion to explain yourself is to live in a state of quiet freedom. A freedom that few people ever taste because they are enslaved to the constant need to justify, defend, or clarify their actions to others. The truth is, most explanations are not about truth at all. They're about approval. When you feel the need to explain yourself to someone, especially to someone who has not earned that right through trust or respect, what you are really doing is handing them the power to judge you. And in that moment, your peace becomes dependent on their response. This is why the Stoics saw restraint in speech as a virtue, not simply because silence conserves energy, but because it keeps your dignity intact. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should be indifferent to what others think of us when we know our actions are in accordance with virtue. If your motives are honorable, your actions just, your intentions aligned with your principles, then there is no reason to plead your case in the court of public opinion. Epictetus taught that the opinions of others are external events beyond our control, and therefore irrelevant to our inner state. To live in this truth is to remove the invisible chains that tie your self-worth to the shifting moods of other people. The compulsion to explain often comes from insecurity, from the fear of being misunderstood or judged harshly. But here is the heart reality. You will be misunderstood. You will be judged, and no amount of explanation will prevent it. People hear not with their ears, but with their beliefs, their biases, and their desires. If someone wants to think ill of you, your words will be twisted. If they want to respect you, they will find a reason to do so without you lifting a finger. The Stoic approach is to act with integrity and let actions stand on their own. The moment you start justifying yourself unnecessarily, you train others to expect it. You teach them that their approval is a prerequisite for your peace. And once you teach that, you will find yourself explaining more and more, shrinking into a version of yourself that is always on trial. Choosing not to explain does not mean living with arrogance or refusing to answer genuine questions from people who care about you. It means drawing a clear line between those who have earned the right to your explanations and those who have not. It means understanding that your time, energy, and mental space are precious resources not to be wasted on convincing someone who has already decided what they believe about you. When you practice this, you begin to notice a profound shift. Your words become rarer but weightier. Your presence becomes steadier, and people begin to take you more seriously because they can sense you are not seeking their approval. Your silence will sometimes frustrate others, but that frustration belongs to them, not to you. In the end, the choice to never explain unnecessarily is the choice to live untangled from the judgments of others, anchored firmly in your own values, and free from the exhausting performance of constantly defending who you are. Never beg. To never beg is to refuse to place your dignity on the bargaining table, no matter how much you desire something or someone. Begging is not merely the act of asking. It is asking from a place of desperation, from a place where you have already surrendered your self-respect in exchange for a chance, a crumb, or a moment of attention. The Stoics would see begging as a form of slavery to desire because the instant your peace depends on receiving something from another person, You have given them the keys to your emotional state. Seneca wrote that the man who needs nothing cannot be defeated. And this is the core of the principle to reduce needs, so you cannot be controlled. Begging turns your gaze outward to the whims of others, rather than inward to your own capacity for resilience and self-reliance. It is not that you cannot request help, seek partnership, or express your needs honestly. Rather, it is that you must never allow the outcome to determine your worth or your stability. The Stoic mind approaches desire with the understanding that all external things are uncertain, that nothing outside of your own reasoned choice is truly yours, and that to cling to them desperately is to prepare yourself for disappointment. When you beg, you place yourself in a lower position, implicitly saying to the other person, "You hold the power over my happiness," and this is a dangerous illusion. People respect those who stand firm, who ask without attachment, who can walk away if what they seek is denied. By contrast, desperation invites manipulation. If you show someone you will do anything to keep them, they will test just how much anything really is. If you show someone that you cannot survive without their approval, they will measure your worth by how much they can control yours. In this way, begging diminishes both parties. It strips the beggar of dignity and tempts the giver into arrogance. The Stoic's task is to practice the discipline enough to live with the quiet assurance that what is meant for you will not need to be chased on your knees. This is why Epictetus insisted on distinguishing between what is in our control and what is not. If something is outside your control, no amount of pleading will make it yours. If it is within your control, then begging is unnecessary. Living without begging is not about pride for pride's sake. It is about protecting your inner freedom. You can express a desire without turning it into a dependency. You can ask without grumbling, and you can walk away without resentment when the answer is no. In doing so, you keep your worth self-contained and you become unshakable, because nothing another person gives or withholds can take away the dignity you have chosen to preserve. Never chase. To never chase is to accept that what is meant to remain in your life will meet you halfway, and that what turns away does so, for a reason you do not need to control. Chasing is different from pursuing a worthy goal. Chasing is a pursuit poisoned by attachment, a restless running after something or someone that resists you. In Stoic terms, chasing is the refusal to accept the natural flow of events, the attempt to bend reality into a shape that pleases your desire. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to love only what happens, which was destined. For in that acceptance lies freedom. When you chase, you imply that without the object of your pursuit, you are incomplete. You train your mind to believe that peace lies out there in something that is constantly moving away from you. And in doing so, you condemn yourself to a state of perpetual pursuit. Chasing drains dignity because it puts you in a position where you follow rather than stand, where your worth is measured by how quickly you can close the distance between yourself and what does not want to be caught. A Stoic knows that value is not in convincing the world to give you what it withholds, but in living so firmly anchored in virtue that you can watch things pass without feeling diminished. To never chase is not laziness. It is the deliberate choice to conserve your energy for what is aligned with your path. If you run after something that runs away, you are not only exhausting yourself, but you are affirming that it is worth more than your self-respect. People, opportunities, and outcomes will naturally come and go, and the mind trained in acceptance treats each arrival and departure with the same calm acknowledgement. This is not mine to hold. Chasing also reveals fear, the fear of emptiness, of being alone, of lacking purpose without the prize. The Stoic dissolves this fear by cultivating an inner life so rich that no external thing can complete or destroy it. Epictetus taught that if you want something, you should ask yourself if you are prepared to be denied it without losing your composure. If the answer is no, then you are already its servant. By refusing to chase, you stand as your own master. You become a lighthouse, not a ship in frantic pursuit. Those meant to find you will see your light and come toward it. Those who do not will pass by, and you will remain rooted and unshaken. To live this way is to embrace the profound Stoic truth that peace comes not from catching what flees, but from standing still in the strength of who you are, unmoved by the tides. Silence is not emptiness. It is full of meaning for those who know how to use it. In a noisy world, people believe that the loudest voice commands the most respect. But in truth, the quietest one often holds the deepest authority. To understand why your silence becomes your superpower, you must see how it is built on the three pillars we have explored. Never explaining, never begging, never chasing. These are not just isolated principles. They are interconnected strands in the same rope, each strengthening the others, each rooted in the same Stoic understanding that your worth and your peace do not depend on external forces or bias. When you stop explaining unnecessarily, you take away the oxygen that fuels gossip, suspicion, and manipulation. You show others that you are not on trial, that your life is not a public courtroom where anyone can demand a defense. This is not arrogance. It is clarity. It is the realization that those who truly matter to you will understand your actions through your consistency and integrity, not through endless verbal defense. And those who do not matter cannot be convinced, no matter how carefully you explain yourself. This simple but difficult act of withholding explanations creates a shield around your mind. It teaches you to be comfortable with being misunderstood, which is one of the greatest tests of emotional maturity. Many people live in chains, enslaved to the need to be seen as good or right in everyone's eyes. But the Stoic sees that these chains are forged from fear, the fear of rejection, of judgment, of loss. Silence cuts through these chains, not with aggression, but with stillness. When you stop begging, you remove another layer of vulnerability to the whims of others. Begging weakens the soul because it declares, even if subtly, that you are incomplete without what you are asking for. The moment you communicate this, whether through words, tone, or posture, you offer someone the chance to control you. The Stoic refuses such control. He or she may ask, but never from a place of desperation. Requests are made with dignity, with a readiness to accept no without resentment. In this way, you become immune to manipulation, because you are no longer willing to pay for scraps of attention with the currency of your self-respect. And there is another effect. When you do not beg, the things and people who stay in your life are there by choice, not by pressure. This creates relationships built on mutual respect rather than power imbalance. It also clarifies your own sense of sufficiency. You begin to realize how much you can survive without. And that realization makes you lighter, freer, harder to shake. And when you stop chasing, you break the habit of pouring your energy into what resists you. Chasing is the visible symptom of inner restlessness, the belief that happiness lies just out of reach, and that if you run fast enough, you will catch it. But the truth is that if something is running away, it is not meant to be held. The Stoic accepts this without bitterness. By standing still, by letting things flow toward you or away from you, naturally, you preserve your strength for what truly aligns with your nature and your values. This refusal to chase is not laziness. It is the conscious discipline of detachment. You watch the comings and goings of life, the way a lighthouse watches the sea. Steady, patient, indifferent to the passing of individual ships. The ships that are meant to dock will find their way to you without you leaving your post. Those who do not will pass by, and you will still be there unwavering. This is the kind of strength that draws respect without demanding it, that inspires loyalty without forcing it. These three principles together create a quiet force that is impossible to ignore. You become the person who does not waste words explaining to the unworthy, who does not kneel in desperation for what cannot be lived without, and who does not exhaust themselves in pursuit of what flees. People will notice this. Some will respect it deeply. Others will resent it because it removes the usual tools they might use to control you. In both cases, you remain untouched because your inner state is no longer subject to their reactions. This is where silence becomes your superpower. Not because it intimidates, but because it liberates you from the exhausting need to control the uncontrollable. Silence, in the Stoic sense, is active. It is not the absence of speech, but the mastery of it. It means you speak when it is useful, when it adds value, when it serves virtue, and you remain silent when speech would only serve ego, vanity, or conflict. It means your reactions are deliberate, chosen, measured, and rooted in reason. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to be like the rock against which the waves break, and it stands firm while the raging of the sea falls, still around it. He, that rock, does not argue with the sea. It does not plead with the waves to be gentler, nor does it rush after them as they retreat. It simply remains. Your silence, when chosen with intention, is that rock. It communicates more than words ever could, that you are centered, that you are not desperate, that you are in control of yourself. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the one who speaks less but lives more deliberately stands out. People will come to realize that your silence is not emptiness, but strength, not avoidance, but mastery. They will sense that you cannot be baited into foolish arguments, that you cannot be guilted into lowering yourself, that you cannot be lured into chasing illusions. This changes how others treat you. Those who respect strength will deal with you more carefully, knowing that you are not easily swayed. Those who seek to manipulate will eventually leave, frustrated by the lack of openings, and you, untouched by either flattery or insult, will walk through life lighter, calmer, and freer. The practice of silence in this way does not make you cold or disconnected. In fact, it makes you more capable of genuine connection because you are no longer acting from fear or need. Your relationships are chosen freely. Your commitments are entered without hidden motives. And your presence becomes a steadying force for those around you. When you no longer explain to win approval, beg to keep what you fear losing, or chase to fill a void, you discover that you already have everything you need within yourself. And from that place of sufficiency, you can give more generously to others. Not because you must, but because you choose to. To live by these principles is to live with a kind of quiet confidence that no speech can imitate. It is the confidence that comes not from titles, wealth, or the praise of others, but from the deep knowledge that nothing outside yourself can take away your sense of worth. This confidence is invisible to the casual observer, yet unmistakable to those who encounter it. They may not know exactly why they respect you, but they feel it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you do not rush to defend, to plead, or to chase. You become an immovable presence in a world built on constant motion. It is to be rooted in the understanding that your worth is not a negotiation, that it does not rise or fall with someone else's opinion, that it cannot be increased by applause or diminished by criticism. Your dignity is not for sale, not for rent, not subject to conditions or bargains. You do not offer pieces of yourself in exchange for belonging, for affection, or for validation. Instead, you belong fully to yourself first. And from that place of self-possession, you can give freely without fear of loss. Your peace is not dependent on the unpredictable tides of the outside world, the chaos of markets, the instability of relationships, or the volatility of human moods. You are not naive to these changes. You expect them the way a sailor expects storms and calms alike. You do not cling to the calm, nor do you panic at the storm, because you understand that both are part of the same ocean. This steadiness is what the Stoics called living in agreement with nature, not nature as in forests and rivers alone, but the nature of reality itself. The truth is that change is constant and that control over it is an illusion. Silence, when shaped by Stoic wisdom, is not a retreat into passivity. It is not the avoidance of life nor the closing off of your heart. It is a position of strength from which you can meet life on your own terms without being pushed into words or actions that betray your principles. Your silence says, I am not afraid to be misunderstood. I am not afraid to stand alone. I will speak when it serves the truth, and I will remain silent when the truth needs no defense. The storms will come as they always do. Sudden betrayals, unexpected losses, harsh words spoken in anger. The voices will shout, demand, accuse, and tempt you to react without thinking and assault it. The waves will crash. Events you did not see coming. Outcomes you did not plan for. Endings you did not want. But like the rock in the sea, you will remain. You will feel the force of the water against you, but you will not be swept away. The waves will break against your resolve and fall still. This is not because you fought harder, but because you stood firm, anchored in the discipline of not explaining, not begging, not chasing. And that is the truest power you will ever hold. A power that needs no audience, no validation, and no noise. A power that allows you to walk through the noise of the world untouched, to endure the shifting winds of fortune without losing your center, and to live each day knowing that the greatest strength is not in conquering others, but in mastering yourself. This is the essence of Stoic silence. The choice to let the world spin while you remain steady. A living example that control is not found in holding on, but in letting